What's up, guys? I just want to talk to you guys about weather, tides, moon phases, and how they affect the fishing, and how important it is to go out at those specific times and catch fish. And if you do go out there at those specific times, you'll catch bigger fish. Let me get into that. So first, let me talk about warm fronts. Warm fronts usually happens before a storm or after a storm. The way warm fronts work in winter is they come through before the storm even happens, and usually the cold front comes after the storm because that's how it works in the winter time. In summer, it's pretty much a flip around. For summer, it'd be a cold front that'd come through, and then the storm would roll in, and then it would be a warm front afterwards because the storm's over. Very rarely we get storms in the summertime, and usually when I catch those fish, I usually catch them right before a storm or right before a cold front comes in, or any little slight temperature change that isn't consistent is usually when I catch them. Just like with that 5-pounder in my last video, I caught that fish right before a warm front came through. Now let's talk about moon phases. Usually when moon phases are really important is during the post-spawn, spawn, and pre-spawn, which is springtime when the bass are spawning. Usually during the post-spawn and spawn and pre-spawn, when the bass are just in the transitions of spawning, moon phases play a very important role, because when a full moon is happening and there's a bass locked on a bed and it's starting to spawn, that's when the eggs start to hatch and all the fry come out and all that. Usually fishing on that day that night is going to have a full moon is probably going to be really good for fishing. When you fish those days that are going to have a full moon, quarter moon, or a new moon, it's going to get you bigger fish and more fish. Now that's just for the spring. Usually when you have, let's say during the summertime, you have a full moon in July, which is probably in the middle of July. That means you'd see bluegill right next to the bank on beds, just like the bass, but instead of the bass spawning, the bluegill spawn, because the bluegill spawn every time there's a full moon. That's the case if there isn't winter time and if it isn't spring, which means they only spawn in the summertime on a full moon. I've proven this fact because I have a video right here, as you guys can see. This is a bluegill on a bed on a day that's gonna transition into the night with a full moon. So it's on a bed right now, and this is a female, I believe. And while these bluegill are on beds and doing their thing, and it's a full moon, that's usually when it's the best for fishing, because the bigger bass tend to come out more and start to feed on those bluegill that are spawning, because they're an easy meal, because they have to stay in one spot and protect their eggs or whatever they produce or whatever they're guarding, so they can't leave the spot. So it's an easy meal for them to ambush on. That's why it's super key to fish on a full moon during the summertime, and during the springtime is best to do that. So I don't care what kind of body of water you're on. You might be on a little pond or whatever, any little body of water, not like a swimming pool, but you know what I mean, like a natural body of water, big or small, it has tides, believe me. Anywhere you go has tides. The moon affects the way the water are going up and down. The smaller the body of water, it won't show the tides because it's such a small body of water. But if it was big, just like the ocean, which goes up and down with the tides, it gets affected. But doesn't mean the small bodies of water get affected, but they don't have that raising and lowering level of water. Usually I found that when it's a low tide, if you go on any little fishing app that tells you that it's a low tide or anything like that, that's usually when it's best to catch those fish. High tides, you don't get as much luck, but you still will catch fish. And a low tide with those 3 moon phases, a full moon, a quarter moon, which is a half moon, and a new moon, if those play a key role with the low tide at the same time, that's when you got the best bite of fishing, because it increases your chance of catching a bigger fish and more fish. Keeping track of your weather if either a warm front or a cold front's coming in is very key, because that determines whether if the fish will bite. If the conditions aren't good, they still have to find a way to eat, but they won't eat your bait as much because they'll be a lot more finicky. So make sure to keep track of your weather, and when a storm is going to come through, or really any kind of storm that comes through, fishing right before that storm is really good fishing. My point is, pretty much if you have all 3 of those moon phases good at the same time and you're fishing on those days with those good moon phases or that good weather, which means fishing before a storm or either having that low tide, is probably gonna get you the biggest fish, but not as many bites. But like other days, if they don't have those, you'll catch the smaller fish and more numbers. Anyways, guys, make sure to like this video, and if you're new, subscribe. Tell me in the comment section below if you guys want more videos like this, and I will do a beginner's fishing tips video and show you what the difference is between a spinning reel and a bait caster and how to use it, and different types of lures. I'll break those down and everything. So make sure to like that button and comment down below if you want to see that in the next video, and subscribe if you're new, and I guess I'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace.